I was 8 months pregnant when someone pushed me onto subway tracks. The train stopped 3 feet from my face, but here's what haunts me. The person who tried to kill me wasn't a stranger. And my husband. He wasn't surprised when the police said attempted murder. What I discovered next destroyed everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about trust, about the man sleeping next to me every night. Because some betrayals don't just break your heart, they try to stop it completely. This is my story, and if you think you know where it's going, you don't. Before we begin, hit that like button if you're ready for a story about survival. Drop a comment telling me would you have seen the warning signs and subscribe. Because stories like this need to be heard. Women need to know they're not alone. Let's begin. The security camera timestamp reads 5:32 p.m. when it happens. When they're maintaining the image that money equals contentment, Ryan squeezed my hand under the table. He smiled at me with those blue eyes that made me fall in love 5 years ago. That made me say yes when he proposed on a beach in Santorini. That made me believe in forever. But I noticed things even then. I've always noticed things. It's what makes me good at my job as an architect. Seeing the spaces between the obvious, the structural weaknesses hidden behind beautiful facades, the foundation cracks covered by fresh paint. Ryan checked his phone 4 times during dinner. Each time, his expression flickered, something between anxiety and anticipation. He'd arrived separately, 20 minutes after everyone else, said he'd come straight from the gym, but his hair wasn't wet. His gym bag wasn't in the car when we left. His sister Nora, 29 and sharp as glass, leaned over during dessert. She stabbed her fork into chocolate cake and whispered, "Hope you got a good prenup. Bridge." I laughed it off. Nora had a dark sense of humor. Always had. Ever since her own divorce 2 years ago left her cynical about marriage. "We don't have a prenup," I whispered back. "Ryan said they're for people who expect to fail." Nora's expression shifted. Something like concern, something like warning. "Interesting," she said, then changed the subject. "We didn't have a prenup. Ryan had been adamant about it when I brought it up before the wedding 3 years ago. My attorney had suggested it. My business partner Paige had insisted on it, but Ryan had refused. "We're forever. Bridge," he'd said, taking my hands in his. "I don't plan exits when I'm building something permanent. A prenup says you're already thinking about divorce. I'm thinking about 50 years from now, about growing old together, about never needing an escape route." He was good with words. Investment bankers usually are. They sell confidence for a living. They convince people to trust them with millions of dollars based on nothing but projections and promises. I should have remembered that. That night, driving home to our brownstone in Brooklyn, Ryan held my hand over the center console, talked about nursery themes with genuine enthusiasm, mentioned brands of cribs and strollers and baby monitors he'd been researching. "I'm thinking about taking some time off when they arrive," he said. "Maybe work from home more. Be there for those first months, the first year. Really, I don't want to miss anything. Really." I squeezed his hand, touched by this vision of involved fatherhood. "That would be amazing. You're giving me everything. Bridge, a family, a home, a life I never thought I'd have. Everything I never had, growing up with Elliot being gone all the time, buried in cases and clients. I want to be different. I want to be there. I want our kids to know their father." His voice carried so much sincerity, so much emotion. I believed every word. God, I believed him completely. Later that night, after Ryan fell asleep, I lay awake thinking about our future, about the twins growing inside me, about the family we were building, about the life we'd create together. I placed my hands on my belly, felt the flutter of movement. They were still small, barely showing yet, but they were there, real. Our children. I thought about names, about which room would be the nursery, about how we'd fit 2 cribs and 2 of everything into our Brooklyn brownstone. I thought about everything except the possibility that the man sleeping beside me was lying about who he was, what he wanted, why he'd married me. I thought about everything except the truth. Month 4 of the pregnancy. June. I found the hotel receipt in Ryan's suit pocket on a Thursday morning. I wasn't snooping. I was taking his clothes to the dry cleaner like I did every week. Part of our routine, part of being a wife who managed the household while building a career. The receipt fell out when I emptied the pockets. A small slip of paper that changed everything. The Plaza Hotel, 5 nights, presidential suite, $12,000. My hands started shaking before my brain fully processed what I was seeing. We hadn't stayed at the plaza. We hadn't gone anywhere. Ryan had been working late every night that week on some big merger deal, coming home after midnight, exhausted, distant, claiming the deal was consuming him. I sat down on our bed, the bed we shared, the bed where we'd made these babies, and tried to think of innocent explanations. Maybe it was for work. Maybe he'd put up clients there. But $12,000 for 5 nights on our personal credit card, my heart raced. The twins kicked, responding to my elevated stress hormones. I picked up my phone with trembling fingers. Plaza Hotel, how may I direct your call? The voice was professional, cheerful, completely unaware she was about to destroy my world. I need to check on a reservation, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Under haze. One moment, please. Typing sounds, keys clicking. Then, yes, I have a reservation here for Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Checking out today. Would you like to modify anything before checkout? Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. The room tilted, my vision blurred at the edges. No, thank you. That's all. I hung up before she could say anything else. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Ryan had taken someone to the plaza for 5 nights and checked in as Mr. and Ms. Hayes with someone who wasn't me. I sat there for 20 minutes, just sat, staring at that receipt, watching it blur as tears filled my eyes, feeling the twins move inside me, feeling my marriage crack open like an egg dropped on concrete. There had to be an explanation, a good explanation, a reasonable explanation. Ryan loved me. Ryan was excited about the twins. Ryan wasn't the kind of man who would cheat on his pregnant wife. Was he? I called Paige? Hey, what's up? Her voice was bright, happy, uncomplicated. I found something. My voice cracked. A hotel receipt. The plaza, 5 nights, $12,000. And when I called, they said the reservation was for Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Silence on the other end. Bridge, Paige said carefully. What did Ryan say when you asked him about it? I haven't asked him yet. I don't know how. I don't know if I should. Maybe there's an explanation. There's always an explanation. Paige's voice was gentle but firm. The voice of a best friend who'd seen me through my father's death, my mother's remarriage, college heartbreaks, career setbacks, the voice of someone who loved me enough to tell hard truths. The question is whether it's a true explanation or a convenient one. When Ryan got home that night at 9, I was waiting in the kitchen. The receipt sat on the counter between us like evidence at a crime scene. What's this? I asked, proud of how steady my voice sounded. Ryan looked at the receipt. His face went through several expressions in quick succession. Surprise, concern, guilt, then something that looked like embarrassment mixed with relief. Oh God, Bridge, you weren't supposed to find that. My stomach dropped. My chest tightened. The twins kicked hard. It's not what you think, he said quickly, words tumbling out fast, too fast. I've been planning something, a surprise, a baby moon, before the twins arrive and we can't travel anymore. I booked the plaza for next month, presidential suite, 5 nights of luxury before everything changes forever. He pulled out his phone with the practiced ease of someone who'd prepared for this moment, showed me confirmation emails, spa appointments at the hotel spa, restaurant reservations at Daniel and Le Bernardin, Broadway show tickets, everything planned, everything documented, everything perfect. I wanted it to be perfect, he said softly, his voice carrying just the right amount of emotion. A last trip as just the two of us, one final romantic escape before we become parents, before our lives change completely. I'm sorry I worried you. I should have told you sooner. I felt guilty immediately, ashamed, small. How could I have suspected him? How could I have jumped to the worst conclusion? How could I have doubted this man who clearly loved me enough to plan an elaborate surprise? I'm sorry. I said. The words felt heavy, wrong, but I said them anyway. I shouldn't have assumed the worst. I shouldn't have called the hotel. I ruined the surprise. You're pregnant and hormonal and worried about everything. It's understandable. He wrapped me in his arms, held me close. Let me cry against his shoulder. I love you, Bridge. Only you, forever. You and our babies. That's all that matters to me. I wanted to believe him. So desperately wanted to believe him. So I did. That night, after Ryan fell asleep, I called Paige again. He had a perfect explanation. I told her, complete with confirmation emails and reservations and everything. That's great, Paige said. But her voice had that tone, the one that meant she was thinking something she didn't want to say. The one that meant she was worried. What? Long pause. Then, nothing. It's just that explanation was very correct, very detailed, very prepared. Like he'd thought about what he'd say if you found out. You think he was lying? I think men who cheat are usually really good at explaining things away. Really good at having documentation ready. Really good at making you feel guilty for suspecting them. Another pause. I think you should trust your instincts, Bridge. I'm standing on the subway platform at Grand Central Station, 8 months pregnant with twins, grocery bags in one hand and my phone in the other. My feet ache. My back aches. Everything aches when you're carrying two humans inside your body. But I'm texting Ryan about paint colors for the nursery anyway. Soft yellow or pale green. Something gender neutral since we decided to keep it a surprise. He hasn't responded in 3 hours. That's not unusual anymore. Ryan's been distant lately. Working late, coming home exhausted, distracted. But I tell myself it's normal. He's an investment banker. His job is demanding. We're about to have twins. He's probably stressed about becoming a father. I tell myself a lot of things these days. The platform is crowded. Rush hour in Manhattan means bodies pressed together in the October chill. Commuters checking phones. Students with backpacks. Tourists with confused expressions staring at subway maps. The usual chaos of New York City. And I think those hotel receipts don't lie. Someone stayed there with someone. Maybe it really was him. Preparing. Checking everything out. Maybe. Paige didn't sound convinced. Just promise me you'll pay attention. Watch for other signs. Don't ignore your gut. But I didn't trust my gut. I trusted Ryan. I trusted his explanations, his documents, his tears. That was my first mistake. It wouldn't be my last. Month 6 of the pregnancy. August. The flowers arrived at my architecture office on a Tuesday morning. 24 red roses in an expensive crystal vase, the kind of arrangement that costs $300 minimum. My assistant Jenny brought them to my desk with a knowing smile. Someone loves you, she said. Lucky girl. I smiled back, assumed they were from Ryan, an apology for missing our anniversary dinner the night before. He'd had to work late. Again, another merger, another deal, another night coming home after midnight. I opened the card. The world stopped. Can't stop thinking about last night. You're incredible. S. Not R for Ryan. S for someone else. Someone who'd spent last night with my husband while I ate leftover takeout alone and worked on nursery designs. My blood went cold. My hands shook. The twins kicked hard, responding to my sudden spike in adrenaline. These aren't for me, I said slowly, each word careful, controlled. Check the delivery address. Jenny looked at the receipt attached to the vase. Her smile faded. Oh, these were supposed to go to Hayes Capital Management. Same last name, wrong office. They must have mixed up the addresses. Ryan's work. Someone named S sent my husband flowers, talking about last night, calling him incredible. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at those roses, red like blood, like warning flags, like everything I'd been ignoring for months. Then I got in my car and drove to Ryan's office in Midtown Manhattan. I'd never shown up unannounced before. Ryan said it was unprofessional, that his office environment was intense and private visits interrupted workflow, that boundaries between work and home were important. But I didn't care about professional anymore. I didn't care about boundaries. I cared about truth. I parked across the street from Hayes Capital Management, a glass tower in Midtown, 42nd floor, corner office, everything Ryan had worked for. I waited, watching the building entrance like a detective in a bad movie, feeling ridiculous, feeling desperate, feeling the twins kick inside me as if to say, find out the truth. Mom, protect us. At 6 p.m., Ryan emerged from the revolving doors. He wasn't alone. The woman next to him was beautiful, late 20s, blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, professional suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, confident stride, easy smile. They walked close together, too close. His hand rested on the small of her back, casual, familiar. The way you touch someone you know intimately. She said something. He laughed. That laugh, the one I used to inspire, the one that made me fall in love. They got into his car together, his BM, the one we'd bought together 2 years ago. I followed them. I kept 3 cars back. Changed lanes when they changed lanes. Felt like a character in a thriller movie, except this was my life, my marriage, my husband. 20 minutes through Manhattan traffic, through streets I knew, past restaurants we'd been to, past the park where we'd gotten engaged, to a luxury condo building in Chelsea, the kind of building with a doorman in uniform, floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop terraces, monthly fees that cost more than most people's rent. They went inside together. The doorman greeted them, not like strangers, like residents. I parked illegally, didn't care, couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was seeing. 15 minutes later, lights came on in a 10th floor corner unit. I could see them through the windows, see Ryan take off his jacket, loosen his tie, see the blonde woman move around the space with the casual confidence of someone who lived there. See furniture, modern, expensive. See artwork on the walls. See plants on the windowsill. See a life. This wasn't a hotel. This wasn't a one-night stand. This wasn't even a simple affair. This was a second home, a parallel life, a whole existence I knew nothing about. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching my husband live a life I didn't know existed, watching him laugh with another woman in an apartment I'd never seen, watching him be intimate and comfortable and happy, watching the man I married prove that he was a complete stranger. The twins kicked harder, more insistent, as if they felt my heartbreak, as if they understood that their father was not the man I thought he was, as if they were trying to tell me to fight, to survive, to protect them. I drove home through blurred vision. A woman named Julia Brennan who specialized in infidelity cases. Former NYPD detective, discreet, professional, experienced in gathering evidence that holds up in divorce court. We met at a coffee shop in Park Slope. Julia was 50-something, sharp eyes, competent hands, the kind of woman who'd seen every variation of betrayal and wasn't shocked by anything anymore. "Tell me everything," she said. I told her about the hotel receipt, the flowers, following Ryan to the Chelsea condo. Everything. Julia took notes, asked questions, didn't judge, just listened with the professional detachment of someone who did this for a living. "I'll need 3 days," she said. "Maybe 4. I'll get you everything. Photos, financial records, timeline, everything you need." It took her 3 days. 3 days to uncover what I'd been blind to for 18 months. We met again at the same coffee shop. Julia slid a thick folder across the table. Her face was sympathetic but professional. The face of someone delivering bad news they've delivered 100 times before. "This is going to be hard to hear," she said gently. "Take your time reading it." The folder contained photographs, credit card statements, lease agreements, bank records, text messages, emails, a complete documentation of betrayal. Ryan had been keeping Sloan Winters in that Chelsea condo for 18 months, since before I got pregnant, since before we'd decided to start a family. He paid her rent, 2 months security deposit, $12,000 a month for a 2-bedroom luxury apartment. He paid her car payment, a BMW, the same model as his. He paid her credit cards, designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, everything. There were photos of them together, at restaurants, the same restaurants he took me to for our anniversary, at the theater, the same shows we'd seen together, at his family's lake house in Vermont, the same place we'd spent our honeymoon. "The condo is in both their names," Julia explained. "Joint lease signed 14 months ago. Joint utilities. Joint everything. This isn't just an affair, Mrs. Hayes. This is a parallel life, a second family, essentially." I thought about every late night, every business trip, Every time Ryan claimed he was at the gym, or meeting clients, or working on deals that required his complete attention, he was with her, building a life with her while I built our home, while I grew his children, while I believed in our marriage. There's more, Julia said carefully, like she was approaching a wounded animal. Financial records show Ryan has been siphoning money from your joint accounts, about $15,000 a month for the past year. Large withdrawals, always cash. Did you authorize any of these? She showed me statements, highlighted numbers, dates, patterns. No, I don't even look at those accounts. Ryan handles the finances. He's also taken out loans against your brownstone. $200,000 in home equity loans over the past 6 months. Did you sign anything? No, I didn't know. I don't understand. He makes good money. His salary is over $400,000 a year. Why would he need loans? Julia's expression darkened. She pulled out more documents, credit card charges, casino visits, online gambling sites, sports betting apps. I can't prove this conclusively yet, but based on these charges and some sources I have in the financial sector, I believe Ryan has a serious gambling problem, the kind that destroys lives and families. The room spun. The coffee shop sounds faded to white noise. Affair, financial betrayal, gambling addiction, lies stacked on lies like a house of cards that was finally collapsing. What do I do? My voice sounded small, scared. Not like me at all. You get a lawyer, a very good lawyer. You document everything. I feel someone standing too close behind me, too close for the amount of space available, close enough that I can smell perfume, something expensive, floral with notes of vanilla. The yellow warning line is 3 inches from my toes. I step back slightly, trying to create distance. The person behind me moves closer. I start to turn, annoyed now, ready to ask them politely to give me space. I'm pregnant, visibly, obviously pregnant. People usually give pregnant women room. Then I'm falling, not stumbling, not losing my balance. Falling because hands push firmly against my back, hands that aren't accidental, hands that mean to send me over the edge. The yellow warning line disappears beneath my feet. The concrete edge, the tracks below, the third rail that carries enough electricity to kill me instantly if I touch it, the headlight of the incoming express train growing brighter, closer, impossibly fast. Everything slows down the way they say it does in moments before death. You protect yourself and your babies, and you do it fast. Mrs. Hayes, because men like Ryan are dangerous when they're cornered, when they're desperate, and when they realize their lies are catching up to them. I met with a divorce attorney that afternoon, Martha Phillips, 60 years old, steel gray hair, former prosecutor, shark eyes, and a reputation for destroying unfaithful husbands in court. Her office was in Tribeca, floor-to-ceiling windows, law books lining the walls, confidence in every detail. She reviewed Julia's evidence with the focused intensity of someone who'd seen worse, much worse, but also someone who knew exactly how to weaponize information. With this documentation, you'll get everything, Martha said confidently. The house, full custody of the twins when they're born, child support, alimony, spousal support during pregnancy. Ryan will be lucky if he leaves this marriage with his car and his clothes. For the first time in days, I felt something like power, like control, like I wasn't just a victim of circumstance. I need to plan this carefully, I said. I don't want him to know I know. Not until I'm ready. Not until everything is in place. Smart. Very smart. Martha made notes. Give me 2 weeks to prepare the paperwork. Restraining orders, custody agreements, financial injunctions. Everything? Then we serve him at his office and file for divorce the same day. Maximum impact. Minimum opportunity for him to hide assets or prepare a defense. Until then, act normal. Act like nothing has changed. Don't let him suspect you know anything. Can you do that? I thought about the twins, about protecting them, about survival. Yes, I said, I can do that. I left her office feeling something close to hope, like maybe I could survive this. Maybe I could protect my children. Maybe I could rebuild. I had evidence. I had a plan. I had control over the situation for the first time since finding that hotel receipt. I was going to survive this. I was going to win. That confidence lasted exactly 3 hours. Then everything changed. That night, I got violently ill. It started with dinner. Ryan cooked, which was unusual but touching. He'd been distant for weeks, distracted. But tonight, he seemed present, attentive, almost guilty. If I'm being honest, like he knew I was sad and was trying to make it better without understanding why. I thought I'd make your favorite, he said. Chicken piccata. Remember when we had it in Italy? I remembered. Our honeymoon, Amalfi Coast. We'd eaten chicken piccata at a little restaurant overlooking the Mediterranean. We'd been so happy, so in love, so naive about what was coming. The meal was perfect. Tender chicken, lemon butter sauce, capers. Exactly the way I liked it. You seem stressed, Ryan said over dinner, his voice concerned, caring. Everything okay at work? Are you feeling all right? The pregnancy isn't too overwhelming. Just tired. The twins are getting bigger. Everything is harder than I expected. You're doing amazing. Bridge, you're going to be an incredible mother. He reached across the table, took my hand. I'm so proud of you. So grateful you're giving me this family. I almost believed him. Almost forgot about the condo in Chelsea, about Sloan, about the lies. Almost. You should take your vitamins, Ryan said after dinner. You haven't been as consistent lately. The doctor said they're important. He was right. I'd been forgetting them. The prenatal vitamins Dr. Cross prescribed, iron, folic acid, everything the twins needed. Ryan brought me the vitamin bottle from the bathroom, handed it to me with a glass of water. Watched me with those blue eyes that used to make me feel loved. Now they just made me feel watched. Take 2, he said. Doctor's orders. I swallowed them, smiled, said thank you. 20 minutes later, I was on the bathroom floor, violently vomiting, sweating, shaking. My heart racing so fast I thought it would explode out of my chest. Pain everywhere, cramping, fear that something was wrong with the babies, terror that I was losing them. Ryan called 911, his voice panicked, convincing. My wife is pregnant with twins. She's vomiting, shaking. Something's very wrong. Please hurry. Please. The ambulance ride was a blur. EMTs checking the baby's heartbeats. Both present, both strong. Thank God. Thank God. They started an IV, asked questions about what I'd eaten, what medications I took, any allergies, any previous complications with the pregnancy. I answered automatically. Chicken, prenatal vitamins, no allergies, no complications until now. At the hospital, they admitted me immediately to the maternity ward. Dr. Miranda Cross, my OBGYN, appeared within the hour. 45 years old, competent, kind, the doctor who'd been with me through this entire pregnancy. The babies are okay, so she said first. Always first, because she knew that's what mattered most. Both heartbeats are strong, no signs of distress, no contractions. They're safe. What's wrong with me? We're running tests, blood work, toxicology. Your symptoms suggest possible poisoning. Could be food poisoning. Could be something environmental. We'll know more soon. Poisoning. The word echoed in my head. Detective Wade Turner showed up around midnight. Homicide Division. 40-something. Tall. Kind eyes that had seen terrible things but still held compassion. Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry to intrude while you're dealing with this, but the hospital called us because your symptoms and blood work are consistent with antifreeze poisoning. Ethylene glycol. It's not something that happens naturally or accidentally. Someone did this to you. The room tilted. My hands went to my belly. To my babies. Antifreeze. We found traces in your bloodstream. Not enough to kill you, but enough to make you extremely sick. Enough to potentially harm your pregnancy. Do you have antifreeze in your home? Any reason you'd come into contact with it? Any way you might have ingested it accidentally? No, I don't think so. I'm pregnant. I'm so careful about everything. I don't even drink coffee anymore. Detective Turner pulled out a notepad. Professional. Thorough. I need to ask some difficult questions. Is there anyone who might want to hurt you? Anyone who would benefit from your death? Any conflicts, threats, anything unusual lately? I thought about Ryan, about Sloan, about the gambling debts, about the money he'd stolen, about the parallel life I'd discovered. But I had no proof he'd poisoned me. Just suspicion. Just the growing certainty that my husband wanted me dead. I don't know. I lied. I can't think of anyone. Ryan sat in the corner of the hospital room. He'd been there the whole time, looking concerned, looking worried, looking like the perfect husband keeping vigil. But I noticed something that made my blood run cold. He wasn't surprised. When Detective Turner said antifreeze poisoning, Ryan's face didn't register shock, didn't show horror, didn't display the appropriate emotion for learning someone tried to murder his pregnant wife. Just a flicker of something else. Calculation, planning, the look of someone whose plan had failed. That night, after Ryan fell asleep in the hospital chair, exhausted from his performance, I reached carefully for his phone on the side table. I knew his passcode, his birthday, 0917. He'd never changed it, never thought he'd need to. I unlocked the screen, my hands shaking, my heart pounding loud enough to wake him. I found text messages with someone named S. Recent. From today. You said the vitamins would just make her sick. Why isn't she dead yet? Be patient. We need to be careful. No evidence, no trail back to us. I'm tired of waiting. When do I get to be Mrs. Hayes? Soon. After she's gone, after I get the insurance money, then everything changes. 4 million is enough for us to disappear. Start over somewhere new. I know. Just a little longer. I read those messages 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, memorizing every word, every confession, every piece of evidence. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to murder me for insurance money, for freedom, for a life together built on my grave. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every confession, every piece of evidence, sent them to my email, to Paige's email, to Martha the attorney, to multiple cloud storage accounts, making sure the evidence couldn't disappear, couldn't be denied. Then I deleted the sent messages from Ryan's phone, carefully, methodically, left no trace that I'd been there, put the phone back exactly where he'd left it, screen down, charging cable attached. My hands shook the entire time. The twins kicked, protesting my elevated stress hormones, telling me to calm down, to protect them. I lay back in the hospital bed, stared at the ceiling, tried to process what I just learned. My husband wanted me dead, was actively poisoning me, had been for weeks, maybe months. Slowly, carefully, making it look like pregnancy complications. In the morning, I showed Detective Turner the screenshots. He read them on my phone. His jaw tightened. His eyes went hard with the kind of anger good cops feel when they see injustice. This is evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, he said quietly. Clear intent, premeditation. I can arrest him right now. Wait, I said quickly. His father is Elliot Hayes, one of the most powerful attorneys in Connecticut. If you arrest Ryan now with just text messages, Elliot will get him out within hours. He'll claim the messages mean something else, that I faked them, that I'm an unstable pregnant woman making accusations. Detective Turner nodded slowly. I see individual faces on the platform. A woman screaming, a man reaching out too late, a child pointing. I twist midair, instinct protecting the babies. Some ancient maternal programming takes over. Arms wrap around my belly, body curves to take the impact anywhere except where my children are. I hit the concrete between the rails hard. Hip first, absorbing the shock, then shoulder, then head. Though not as hard because my arm breaks the fall. The breath is knocked completely out of my lungs. I can't breathe. My chest won't expand. My throat is closed. Panic floods my system. The babies, the babies, the babies. I can't move. Can't think beyond the 2 lives inside me that need me to survive this. Need me to breathe. Need me to live. My hands go to my belly automatically. Still round, still there. Still tight with life. I feel movement. A kick. Strong. angry, protesting. Thank God, thank God, thank God. The train horn screams. He understood. He'd seen rich men escape justice before. You're right. We need more. A confession. Concrete evidence of the poisoning attempt. Something that can't be explained away. Then let me go home. Let me act normal. Let me wear a wire. Get you what you need. Mrs. Hayes, that's dangerous. If they're trying to kill you, they already try. And they failed. They didn't use enough antifreeze. They're amateurs at murder. Now they'll get sloppy, desperate. They'll make mistakes. And I'll be there to document it. What I didn't tell Detective Turner was that I'd already called someone else for help. Jack Remington, my stepfather. I hadn't spoken to Jack in 5 years. Not since my mother died of ovarian cancer when I was 27. Not since Jack tried to tell me that grief was part of healing, and I'd screamed at him that if he'd really loved her, he would have saved her somehow. Not since I'd blamed him for not being enough, for not preventing the unpreventable. I'd been young, angry, devastated, and I'd pushed away the man who'd raised me since I was 12. But Jack was a retired homicide detective, 25 years in the NYPD. If anyone could help me gather evidence, catch a killer, protect me and my babies, it was him. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting 5 years for this call. Bridget, his voice cracked, 58 years old, still strong, still solid. Are you okay? No, I need your help. Someone's trying to kill me. Silence, then. I'm on my way. He met me outside the hospital 2 hours later. Older now, gray hair where there used to be brown, lines around his eyes, but still fit, still sharp, still the man who'd taught me how to ride a bike and balance a checkbook and recognize when someone was lying. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. The affair, the gambling, the texts, the poisoning, everything. Jack listened without interrupting, his detective face on, processing information, building a case in his mind. When I finished, he said, I'll protect you, but you need to trust me. Completely. Can you do that? Yes. Then here's what we're going to do. Jack had connections. Retired cops who owed him favors. Tech guys who specialized in surveillance. Lawyers who understood how to gather evidence that would hold up in court and destroy defense strategies. While I was still in the hospital, Jack's team entered my brownstone with my permission and Detective Turner's authorization. They installed cameras and audio equipment throughout the house. Every room except the bathroom. Hidden, professional, completely undetectable. Anything they say or do, we'll have on record. Jack explained. Video and audio, time-stamped, admissible in court, but you need to be careful. Bridget, don't let them know you suspect anything. Act natural. I can do that. I know you can. You're your mother's daughter. Strongest woman I ever knew. His eyes filled with tears. 5 years of regret and love and hope that maybe we could fix what was broken between us. Thank you for coming, I said. Thank you for helping me. You're my daughter. Blood or not, you're mine. And nobody hurts my daughter. I went home 3 days later. Dr. Cross cleared me. The babies were fine. I was stable. The antifreeze had been processed out of my system. Ryan was overly attentive, making meals, checking on me constantly, bringing me water and vitamins, and asking about every little symptom. The vitamins, Jack had taken the bottle while I was hospitalized, had it tested at a private lab. Results confirmed ethylene glycol contamination, antifreeze. Someone had been dosing them carefully for weeks, trying to make it look like pregnancy complications, trying to kill me slowly. That night, Ryan made dinner again, pasta carbonara, another favorite. I ate it, but when he went to the bathroom, I scraped most of it into the disposal, fed it down the drain. Jack's instructions: don't take chances, don't eat anything you can't verify. Drink only bottled water you open yourself. Trust nothing. You should rest after dinner, Ryan said, his voice solicitous, caring. You've been through so much. I'm okay. Actually, I want to talk. I saw it, the flash of tension in his shoulders, the calculation in his eyes. About what? This was it. The moment where I pushed him to confess, where Jack's cameras would record everything. About us, about the future, about what happens after the twins are born. What do you mean, defensive, careful? I took a breath, committed to the performance. I know about Sloan. Ryan went very still, completely motionless, like an animal deciding whether to run or fight. I don't know what you're talking about. I followed you to the Chelsea apartment. I saw you together. I hired a private investigator. I know everything. Ryan, the condo, the money, all of it. His face cycled through emotions like a slideshow. Denial, anger, fear, calculation. Then he did something I didn't expect. He started crying. Real tears. Actual emotion. The performance of his life. Bridge, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. He broke down completely. Shoulders shaking, face in his hands. The picture of genuine remorse. I'm in trouble. Bridge, real trouble. I owe people money. Bad people. $3 million in gambling debts. My father cut me off when he found out. I was desperate. So you married me for my money. I married you because I thought you could help me, because you were stable, successful, because I thought together we could fix my life. His voice broke. But then I met Sloan. She said she could help. She had a plan. She said if you were gone, I'd inherit everything. The house, your business, the life insurance. $4 million, enough to pay my debts and disappear. So you decided to kill me. I didn't want to. But these people I owe money to, they're not patient, and they're going to kill me if I don't pay. They've threatened my family, my father, my sister, everyone. So you thought killing your pregnant wife was the answer? Sloan said it would look like an accident, like pregnancy complications, like natural causes. No one would suspect, and then it would all be over. I could pay my debts, start fresh. I'm sorry. Bridge, I'm so sorry. Every word was being recorded. Every confession captured on Jack's hidden cameras. Then Ryan noticed something. He leaned forward, looked closely at my necklace. A simple pendant I always wore, except it wasn't my necklace. That's new, he said slowly, suspicion creeping into his voice. I've never seen that before. It was the wire, Jack's equipment, disguised as jewelry but not disguised well enough. Ryan lunged forward, grabbed it, ripped it off my neck hard enough to break the chain. You're recording me. You set me up. He smashed the device on the floor, stomped on it, destroyed it. Then he grabbed his phone, called someone. She knows. She knows everything. We have to do it tonight. Now. He looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before. Empty, cold, desperate. I'm sorry, Bridge. I really am. But I don't have a choice anymore. Ryan locked me in the bedroom. I heard the key turn, heard his footsteps going downstairs, heard him making calls. Urgent, panicked. I tried the bedroom window. Locked. The door, locked from the outside with a key. My phone was in my purse downstairs. The landline we never used was disconnected months ago to save money. I was trapped. The twins kicked frantically, harder than they'd ever kicked before, as if they knew, as if they understood that we were in danger, that their father had become something monstrous. I heard the front door open, heard voices downstairs. Ryan and a woman, Sloan. You were supposed to give her more antifreeze. You were supposed to keep it gradual. She got suspicious. She hired a private investigator. She knows everything. Then we do it now. Tonight. Make it look like an accident. Push her down the stairs. She fell. Pregnant women fall all the time. What about the police? What about them? She's unstable, paranoid, making accusations against her loving husband. Everyone will believe she fell. Their voices came closer, footsteps on the stairs. I looked around the room desperately, looking for anything. A weapon, an escape route, something to protect myself and my babies. The window, even locked. It was glass. It could be broken. I grabbed the chair from my vanity. Heavy solid wood, an antique from my mother. Sorry, Mom, but I need to survive. I threw it through the window with every ounce of strength I had. Glass shattered. exploded outward, the sound like a bomb in the quiet night. The house alarm started shrieking immediately, loud, urgent, broadcasting to the world that something was wrong. Cold October air rushed in. I didn't care. I cared about survival, about fighting, about protecting the lives inside me. The bedroom door burst open. Ryan and Sloane stood there. I got my first real look at her. The mistress, the other woman, the person who'd helped plan my murder. She was beautiful. Late 20s, blonde hair perfect even now, professional clothes, cold eyes that held no remorse, no humanity. She was smiling. "You made this so much harder than it needed to be," Sloane said calmly, like we were discussing dinner plans. "But it ends the same way. You fall, tragic accident. Nobody suspects anything." I backed toward the broken window, glass crunching under my feet, cold air on my face. The cameras had actually in my head, my voice stronger than I felt. Jack installed cameras everywhere. Everything is recorded. The police have been watching. You're done. A sound that will live in every nightmare for the rest of my life. A sound that means death is seconds away. Metal shrieks against metal, breaks that sound like the world ending. Like every terrible thing happening at once. The smell of burning rubber and hot metal fills the air. The train stops 3 feet from where I lay gasping on the filthy concrete. 3 feet, 36 inches between life and death. I stare up at the undercarriage of the train. I can see my reflection in the metal underbelly. Pregnant belly, smudged mascara, bruised cheek already swelling, blood on my temple from where my head hit. I'm alive. Somehow, impossibly, miraculously, I'm alive. The twins are moving. Both of them. I can feel their kicks, their protest, their determination to survive. We're survivors. All three of us. Chaos erupts above, people screaming, someone calling 911. Drew Ryan's face went white, then red, then white again. "You're lying. You're bluffing." "Am I check your living room? Behind the bookshelf? Check the kitchen. Above the refrigerator. They're everywhere. Every word you said, every confession, all recorded." Sloane pulled something from her purse. A knife, kitchen knife from my own kitchen. "Then we make this fast. Make it look like self-defense. Like she attacked us first. We were defending ourselves. I didn't think, didn't plan, just acted on pure instinct and maternal fury. I ran, past them, using their moment of shock, down the stairs, my pregnant belly making me slow, clumsy, off balance. They chased me. I heard them behind me. Footsteps pounding, Ryan yelling my name. I made it to the garage, slammed through the door, got in my car, fumbled with keys, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip them. Turned the ignition. The engine started. Thank God. I backed out fast. Too fast. Hit the gas. The garage door was open. I'd left it open that morning. Pure luck. Pure chance. The car responded. Accelerated. I made it down our sloped driveway, into the street, for about 10 seconds. Then the brakes stopped working. I pumped them desperately. Nothing. Just loose pedal. No resistance. No stopping power. The car rolled down our sloped street, gaining speed, toward the intersection, toward the traffic. I yanked the emergency brake. It helped, slowed me slightly, but not enough, not nearly enough. I crashed into a light pole at the intersection. The impact was massive. The airbag exploded in my face. Pain everywhere, my chest, my belly, my head. I tasted blood, copper, salt, fear. The twins. God, the twins. I had to protect the twins. My hands went to my belly. Still round, still moving, still elite. Ryan and Sloane appeared at my driver's side window, their faces distorted through the cracked glass. Get her out, Sloane commanded. Cold, efficient. Make it look like the crash killed her. Blunt force trauma. Nobody will question it. Ryan opened my door, grabbed my arm, started pulling me out. I tried to fight. Couldn't. No strength left. Just pain and fear and the desperate need to survive. Then sirens. Police lights everywhere, flooding the street with red and blue. Multiple vehicles. SWAT team. Detectives. NYPD. Hands up, step away from the vehicle now. Detective Turner appeared with his gun drawn. 6 other officers with him, all armed, all focused on Ryan and Sloan. Jack was there too, moving fast for a man his age. He reached me first, pulled me gently from the wreckage. Are you hurt? Where can you move? Are the babies okay? I don't know. I don't know. It hurts. Everything hurts. An ambulance screamed to a stop. Paramedics surrounded me, checking vitals, asking questions. Professional, quick, efficient. I watched through blurred vision as officers arrested Ryan and Sloan, handcuffed them, read them their rights, put them in separate police cars. Ryan was crying, begging. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Mom. Please, I didn't mean it. Sloan was screaming, fighting against the handcuffs. This is entrapment. She set us up. This is illegal. Detective Turner came over, knelt beside me where I sat on the curb. We got everything on camera, every word, every confession, the poisoning, the plan to murder you, all of it. They're done, Hayes. They're going to prison for a very long time. Then pain, sharp, immediate, deep in my belly, low, wrong. I gasped, doubled over. Something's wrong. The babies. Something's wrong with the babies. Our Cross appeared out of nowhere. She must have been on call. Must have heard the dispatch. We need to get her to the hospital immediately. She's going into labor. It's too early. I'm only 36 weeks. I know, but stress can trigger early labor. We need to go. Now. They lifted me into the ambulance. Jack climbed in with me, held my hand, like he used to when I was a child and scared of thunder. You're going to be okay, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You and the babies. You are all going to be okay. I promise. I wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to believe him. As the ambulance pulled away, I looked back through the rear window, saw Ryan in the police car, saw Sloan in another, saw my broken car, my shattered life, saw the beginning of whatever came next. Emergency C-section at 36 weeks. Dr. Cross worked quickly, professionally, talking me through everything while the anesthesiologist numbed me from the chest down. You're doing great, Bridget. Almost there, just a few more minutes. Twin A was born at 11:42 p.m. A girl, 5 pounds 3 ounces. Perfect fingers, perfect toes, lungs that work beautifully. She's beautiful, Dr. Cross said. Strong, healthy, a fighter. Ruby, I named her Ruby right there. Because she was precious. Because she'd survived impossible things. Because she was mine. Twin B followed at 11:46 p.m. A boy, 5 pounds even. Just as perfect. Just as determined to live. Henry. After my grandfather. After the kind of man I wanted my son to become. They placed both babies on my chest. Skin to skin. 2 tiny humans who'd fought to exist. Who'd survived attempted murder while still in the womb. Who were perfect and alive and mine. I cried. Held them. Whispered promises that I'd protect them forever. That I'd never let anyone hurt them. That they were safe now. Jack stood in the corner of the operating room, tears streaming down his face, looking at his grandchildren, at the family we'd rebuilt from ashes. Later, after they'd moved me to recovery, after the twins were in the NICU for observation, Detective Turner came to explain what they'd found. He pulled up a chair, his face serious. There's something you need to know about Sloan Winters. That's not her real name. I was exhausted, in pain, but I needed to understand. But what do you mean? Oh, her real name is Sarah Caldwell. She's a con artist, professional, sophisticated. She's wanted in 3 states for identity, theft, fraud, and suspected involvement in 2 previous cases where wealthy men's wives died under suspicious circumstances. The room went cold. She targets men with money problems. Detective Turner continued. Gambling addicts, men in financial trouble. She befriends them, seduces them, manipulates them into murdering their wives for insurance money. Then she disappears with the payout. How many times has she done this? We're certain of 2 cases, wives who died in apparent accidents, falls, car crashes. Both husbands had gambling problems. Both had taken out large life insurance policies shortly before their wives' deaths. Both cases were investigated but never prosecuted due to lack of evidence. And Ryan, the detective Turner, hesitated. After your death, after Ryan inherited everything, she was going to stage his suicide, make it look like guilt over your death drove him to it. Then she'd disappear with all the money, $4 million from your life insurance, your brownstone worth $2 million, your architecture firm, everything. I thought about Sloane, Sarah, whatever her name was, how she'd calculated every move, how she'd positioned herself at Ryan's investment firm, how she'd seduced him, how she'd exploited his weaknesses, how she'd offered solutions to his problems, how every step had been manipulation. Ryan was her victim too, I said slowly. Understanding, not forgiving, just understanding. In some ways, but he made choices, terrible choices. He chose gambling over his family. He chose lies over truth. He chose to participate in your murder. He's not innocent. Mrs. Hayes, he's guilty of attempted murder and conspiracy. At the trial 3 months later, Ryan took a plea deal. His attorney advised him to cooperate, to testify against Sarah, to show remorse, to hope for leniency. He pled guilty to attempted murder, conspiracy, financial fraud, poisoning. In exchange for his testimony, he got 25 years instead of life. He testified about everything. How Sarah had approached him 2 years ago, how she'd learned about his gambling problem, how she'd offered help, how she'd slowly manipulated him into thinking I was the problem. The obstacle, the thing standing between him and freedom. He cried on the witness stand, said he loved me, said he'd made terrible mistakes, said he wished he could take it all back. I sat in the courtroom and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just empty. Sarah got life without parole. 3 counts of conspiracy to commit murder. 2 counts of murder in the previous cases where they'd finally gathered enough evidence. Identity theft, fraud, everything. She showed no remorse, smiled at the verdict. Someone else shouting words that filtered down to where I lay in the dim space between the rails in the stopped train. That woman pushed her, I saw it. The blonde woman in the blue coat pushed her. My mind tries to process this through the shock and pain and fear. Pushed. Someone pushed me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't me losing my balance. This wasn't pregnancy clumsiness or tired legs or distraction or any of the explanations I might have told myself. Someone tried to kill me. Someone tried to kill my babies. A face appears above, leaning over the platform edge. A conductor in uniform. Weathered face, kind eyes, silver hair. Ma'am, don't move. We've cut the power. You're safe. Just stay still. Paramedics arrive. Strong hands, careful movements. They lift me onto a backboard. Secure my neck. Check my vitals. Ask questions I answer automatically through the shock. Your name, Bridget Hayes. The date, October 18th. The president. I answer. Like she'd won something. Like she'd accomplished her goal of destroying the Hayes family even if she was going to prison. Elliot's law firm collapsed from the scandal. His reputation destroyed. His clients abandoned him. His legacy in ruins, which was exactly what Sarah had wanted. Ryan's sister Nora helped me navigate the legal aftermath, helped me secure all the assets. The house, the business, the investments, everything. I'm so sorry. Bridge, she said one afternoon over coffee while the twins napped in their stroller. I should have warned you about Ryan. I knew he was in trouble. I just didn't know how bad. I didn't know he was capable of this. None of this is your fault. Nora, we're not responsible for our family's choices. Still, those babies deserve better than what this family gave them. They have better. They have me. They have Jack. They have people who love them and will protect them. And we were building something better, something real, something that couldn't be destroyed by lies. 6 months later, April again, I sold the Brooklyn brownstone. Couldn't live there anymore. Too many bad memories, too many ghosts, too much evidence of the life I'd thought I had. I bought a small house upstate, near the Catskills, near Jack, 2 hours from the city but far enough to feel like a different world, a safer world, a cleaner world. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a porch where I could sit in the mornings with coffee and watch the twins sleep in their swings. Jack bought the house next door, said he was tired of the city anyway, said he'd always wanted to live in the mountains. But we both knew the truth. He was staying close, protecting us, being the grandfather and father I needed. He was there every day, helping with the twins, teaching Ruby to be strong even though she was only 6 months old, teaching Henry to be kind, being present in ways that mattered. My stepfather became grandpa, and I became his daughter again. For real this time, without the anger and grief that had separated us. Paige visited every weekend, drove up from Brooklyn with her husband and their dog. She was godmother to both twins, had held them in the hospital, had cried when I asked her, had promised to always be there. She kept that promise. My architecture firm thrived. I hired 3 new associates, let them handle the Manhattan projects while I focused on sustainable housing design, on building homes for low-income families, on creating something good from all the terrible things that had happened, on using my success to help others instead of just accumulating wealth. I was writing a book, a memoir, about survival, about recognizing warning signs, about trusting your instincts, about the subtle ways manipulation works, about how to protect yourself. My editor was excited, said it would resonate with women everywhere, said these stories needed to be told, that women needed to know they weren't alone. That survival was possible. I was dating someone, Michael, a high school teacher from the town nearby, 40 years old, never married, patient, kind, understanding, no pressure, no expectations, just coffee dates and walks through the mountains with the twins in their stroller, learning to trust again, learning that not every man is a liar, that good people exist. It was slow, careful, real, not there yet, maybe never fully there, but closer, getting closer every day. I was in therapy, processing, healing, understanding that surviving wasn't the same as thriving, but it was the necessary first step. Learning to forgive myself for the signs I'd missed, for the marriage that failed, for believing Ryan's lies, learning that I wasn't responsible for other people's choices, only my own. And I was making good choices now. Finally, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I rode the train from our small town into Manhattan for client meetings. I always took the same road, through Grand Central, past the platform where this all started, where someone pushed me, where I nearly died. I refused to let fear win, refused to let Sarah and Ryan take one more thing from me, refused to avoid the place where my life changed forever. The conductor always nodded at me now, made sure I was safe, made sure I stood away from the edge, made sure the twins in their carrier were secure. Community. That's what saved me in the end. Not just Jack, not just Paige, but strangers who saw something wrong and spoke up, who became witnesses, who told the truth, paramedics who fought to save us, detectives who believed me when I said someone was trying to kill me, doctors who delivered my babies safely, prosecutors who fought for justice, people who showed up when I needed them most. I've learned something profound about survival. It's not about the moment when you're falling. It's not about the train that almost killed you. It's not even about the people who tried to destroy you and failed. It's about what you build after the fall. It's about choosing to live instead of just surviving. It's about teaching your children that the world has dangerous people in it, but also has good people. More good than bad. People who will catch you when you fall. People who will fight for you. People who will show up. Ruby and Henry will never meet their father outside prison visiting rooms. They might never meet him at all. That's my choice to make. Their choice to make when they're old enough to understand. They'll know the truth eventually. When they're ready, they'll know that bad choices have consequences, that gambling destroys families, that manipulation is real, that revenge destroys everyone it touches. But they'll also know they're loved, protected, safe, wanted, cherished. They'll know their mother survived impossible things to give them life. They'll know strength, real strength, the kind that builds instead of destroys. Last week, someone asked me if I've forgiven Ryan. The answer is complicated, layered, not simple. I understand he was manipulated. I understand Sarah exploited his weaknesses. I understand addiction is a disease. I understand desperation makes people do terrible things, but understanding isn't forgiveness, and it shouldn't be confused with it. He made choices, terrible choices, active choices. He chose gambling over family. He chose lies over truth. He chose to participate in murder over facing his mistakes. He chose to poison me while I grew his children. Those choices have consequences, should have consequences, must have consequences. Maybe someday I'll forgive him. Maybe Henry and Ruby will want a relationship with their father when they're older, when they can understand complexity, when they can make informed choices. But today, I'm focused on building a life where my children never have to wonder if they're safe, never have to question if they're loved, never have to survive someone else's betrayal, never have to doubt that the people who say they love them actually mean it. I'm building something permanent, something real, something that can't be destroyed by lies or manipulated by revenge or shattered by greed. If you're reading this or listening to this story, if something in your life feels wrong right now, trust that instinct, that feeling, that small voice that says something isn't right. If your partner is hiding things, question it. If someone's explanations are too perfect, investigate. If you feel manipulated or gaslit or confused about reality, pay attention. Your gut knows, your body knows, your heart knows when something is wrong, when someone is lying, when you're in danger. The question isn't whether you know. The question is, will you listen to yourself? I didn't listen soon enough. I made excuses. I wanted to believe the beautiful lie instead of facing the ugly truth. I let Ryan's perfect explanations override my instincts. That almost cost me everything. My life, my children's lives, everything I'd built. Don't let your desire for a perfect life blind you to the imperfect, dangerous reality you might be living in. Don't let someone else's manipulation convince you that your instincts are wrong, that you're paranoid, that you're overreacting, that you're crazy. You're not crazy. You're perceptive. And that perception is trying to save your life. And if you find yourself falling, literally or metaphorically, falling toward the tracks with a train coming, remember this: survival is possible. Justice is possible. Building a new life is possible. Thriving is possible. You just have to be brave enough to fight for it, smart enough to ask for help, strong enough to leave when staying means dying. I did all those things, and I'm still here. My twins are still here. Ruby and Henry, 6 months old, healthy, happy, loved. We survived attempted murder. We survived betrayal on every level. We survived the worst things humans can do to each other. And we're not just surviving anymore. We're thriving. Ruby laughs now. Henry smiles. They recognize faces. They reach for Jack when he enters the room. They calm when I hold them. They're building trust, learning safety, understanding love. They're teaching me as much as I'm teaching them that trust can be rebuilt, that families can be chosen, that survival is just the beginning of the story. The rest of the story, that's up to us. That's what we write every day with our choices, our actions, our determination to be better than what tried to destroy us. I choose life. I choose truth. I choose fighting for what matters. Every single day, I choose those things. And that choice has made all the difference. Can you move your fingers? Yes. Your toes? Yes. Everything works. Everything hurts. But everything works. They lift me up to the platform. The crowd parts. Faces stare. Some horrified. Some curious. Some filming with their phones. And that makes me want to scream. Give me dignity. Give me privacy. Give me something other than being entertainment for strangers. A police officer appears. Young, nervous, notepad in hand. Ma'am, witnesses say they saw someone push you. Did you see who it was? I close my eyes. Try to remember. The perfume, the hands. Firm, purposeful. Not a stumble, not an accident. A push. I'd glimpsed something as I fell. Blonde hair. A blue coat. Something familiar about both. Blonde woman, I whisper. Blue coat. But I can't place her. Can't identify her. My mind is too full of shock and pain and the overwhelming reality that someone wanted me dead. They load me into an ambulance. The siren starts. I lay on the stretcher and feel the twins moving. Protesting, fighting, Little warriors who refuse to give up, just like their mother. But here's what I don't know yet. Can't possibly know as the ambulance races through Manhattan traffic toward the hospital. I don't know that the person who pushed me is my husband's mistress. I don't know that my husband married me for money. I don't know that they've been planning my death for months. I don't know that my perfect life is built entirely on lies. And I definitely don't know that in 6 months, I'll be standing on this same platform, remembering this moment, understanding finally that survival isn't about the fall, it's about what you do after you hit the ground. Let me take you back 6 months, back to when I still believed in my marriage, back to when I thought I knew my husband, back to when I had no idea that the man I loved was capable of planning my murder, back to the beginning of the end. 6 months earlier, April. We're having twins. I announced it at Sunday dinner at Ryan's parents' house in Greenwich, Connecticut. The whole Hayes family gathered around the mahogany dining table that probably cost more than my first car, crystal chandelier overhead, original artwork on the walls, everything carefully curated to display wealth without being ostentatious about it. Old money has rules about these things. Ryan's father Elliot raised his wine glass, 62 years old, distinguished silver hair, the kind of attorney who intimidated judges. His face beamed with the kind of joy that comes from securing a legacy, from knowing the family name will continue. To Bridget and Ryan, Elliot said, his courtroom voice carrying through the dining room. And to my future grandchildren, the Hayes family continues for another generation. To legacy, to family, to the future. Everyone drank, everyone smiled, everyone looked perfect in that way wealthy families do when they're performing happiness for each other. Through tears that wouldn't stop, through streets that looked different now. Everything looked different now, like the city had transformed, like I was seeing it clearly for the first time. When Ryan came home at 11, I was sitting in the dark living room, waiting, the twins moving restlessly inside me. Bridge, why are you sitting in the dark? Are you okay? Are the babies okay? Such concern, such perfect concern, such practiced worry. I'm fine, I said, my voice flat, empty. Long day, I'm going to bed. I walked past him, couldn't look at him, couldn't trust myself not to scream, not to demand answers, not to shatter this careful facade we were both maintaining, because I couldn't confront him. Not yet. Not until I knew exactly what I was dealing with. Not until I had proof that could protect me and my babies from whatever this was. I hired a private investigator the next morning. Paige recommended someone, like he was deciding how much to tell me, how much I could handle. We found something else. Birth records, DNA tests Sarah had done privately. She's Ryan's half-sister. The world stopped. Completely stopped. What? Elliot Hayes had an affair 30 years ago with a woman named Margaret Caldwell. Margaret got pregnant. Elliot gave her money for an abortion. But she kept the baby, kept Sarah, raised her alone in poverty, while Elliot went on to marry Ryan's mother and build his wealthy life. I couldn't process this. Couldn't understand. Sarah grew up knowing she had a rich father who'd abandoned her, who'd paid her mother to get rid of her, who'd given Ryan everything while she had nothing. This was revenge. She wanted to destroy Elliot's legacy, destroy his son, take everything the Hayes family had. But why kill me? Why not just take Ryan's money? Because she was planning to kill Ryan too. We found text messages on her phone, drafts, plans,